Please switch on your video. Let's start today's class. Okay. So, so what all chapters have been completed in your school currently? Unmute, unmute.
For bio,
Yes, for biology.
control and coordination and life processes.
Hmm. Both of these two chapters are done.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we'll start with control and coordination. And okay, one more question. Like, how are you liking class 10? Is it like better than class 9? Or is it a little difficult? Like, how are you liking class?
It is a bit difficult.
It's a bit difficult. What about biology? Do you like it better than class 9s or it is a little higher level as well?
I like bio from the start, so yes.
You like biology from the start? That's a great thing. Well, something really nice to hear. All right. So we'll talk about control and coordination chapter. But before actually diving in perfectly into this chapter, let us discuss some of the most important terms that are related to this chapter. Okay. And you don't take down any notes right now. I'll give you time to write. First, I'll explain and then you can take down the notes. Now, when we talk about control and coordination, there are some words that we must be familiar with in order to understand how the process of control and coordination is governed in our body. The first thing is a stimulus. Now, a stimulus is an agent or a sudden change in the external or internal environment which causes a change in the organism or its body part, meaning it this particular change, any kind of change that can come from the external environment or comes from the internal, meaning our body, that is a stimulus. For example, you are standing somewhere. Okay, come behind you and I pat on your back. So that patting on your back is a stimulus that I am providing to you. Now
Uh,
naturally what you will do, like your body will process that, okay, someone is patting, right?
React.
Yeah, and then you'll react. Then you'll give a reaction according to that stimulus that has been provided. Mostly the normal reaction is that you'll turn towards me, right? To
Yes.
talk to me, like, who is it? Okay, very good. So the first thing is stimulus. So that patting that I did, it was a stimulus that I provided. Now, the next thing is a response. Now, from that stimulus, the moment you decided to turn around towards me, that is your response. So, what do we call a response? It is the change in organisms resulting from a stimulus. Any kind of change that happens in the organism's body as a result of stimulus that is provided. Now, the next thing is receptors. Now, receptors are those nerve cells which initiate impulse. The impulse means the signal towards the central nervous system, that is CNS, after receiving a stimulus. Now, when I gave a pat on your back, that signal, that impulse was received first of all by the receptors and then it was sent to your brain. Then quickly your brain comprehended, okay, that someone is patting on your back, so that you have to produce a response. Right? Mostly, like if I add my voice along with the pat, then your brain will understand it better. Okay, this person is patting on your back. But normally, when a stranger is doing that, your brain can comprehend it in two ways. Either you will choose to turn around that person or you'll ignore it and walk away. Right? Those are the two things that you can choose to do. So no matter what kind of action that you choose to do, the receptors are there in your body that take those signals of patting or anything to the brain and to the spinal cord, meaning to the central nervous system, meaning the system that is responsible for all the control and coordination activities of our body. So as soon as the stimulus is received, the receptors, they take the stimulus or they take the signal to the CNS. Now, lastly, there are the effectors. Now, effectors, these are the muscles or the glands. Now, effectors is the final, you can say, the things that react. For example, you turn towards me, your muscles are acting on it, right? For turning, your muscles act, your bones act. So the effector can be the muscles or it can be the gland. Meaning, if it is a muscle, then it will contract to produce a movement. And if it is a gland, then it will secrete the substances that it is supposed to secrete. And when they do so, when they receive the impulse from the CNS. So ultimately, the central nervous system sends the impulse, or you can say the reaction that is supposed to happen to the effector muscles or effector glands, meaning to the effectors of a body, so that a reaction can be produced. Any doubts in these four terms?
No, but then can you? I didn't really get the receptors.
Receptors. See, receptors are the specialized nerve cells that are there, like they are present all over our body, everywhere. Okay, so for example, if I am patting on your shoulder, so your shoulder has receptors. Now, these receptors, they sense that, okay, someone is touching
Where is this receptors located?
everywhere in the body. These are the nerve cells, just like how nerves are there in a body. So they
Yeah.
are cells of the nerve. They are tiny things that are present all around the body, every single where. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it's not just the touch that it can comprehend. It can be heat. It can be anything. But these are the ones, they are spread all throughout the body and they are responsible for carrying that signal that has been provided to
So
the
it does
brain.
the same function which the nerve cells do.
These are nerve cells only. Like these are specialized nerve cells and their names are receptors. Clear? Any doubts in these four terms?
No.
All right. Very good. Now moving forward, we talked about the central nervous system, the CNS. Now, this CNS, it has two main components. The first one is the brain, and the second one is the spinal cord. And remember that the CNS stands for Central
Yes.
Nervous System. Okay, so the two main components because of which we can produce responses, we can understand what's going on in the environment is because of these two components, the brain and the spinal cord. Now, with that being said, let us see what are the functions of our nervous system. Now, the most important function of our nervous system is that it keeps us informed about the outside world with the help of our sense organs. Now, how many sense organs do we have?
Right.
Five sense organs: eyes,
Mm,
ears, nose, tongue,
yeah.
and skin. Right? So, all of these sense organs, they actively help us to keep us informed about the outside world. Same way, if you are seeing something, that is the work of your eyes to do, right? But once you see something, the impulse goes to the brain. The brain sees the picture that is being formed, and then you understand. For example, if you're looking at a dog, so when you look at the dog, you'll think that it is a dog and you'll not think that it is a cat or a mouse. Why? Because your brain is comprehending that. It is sensing that, okay, this you have seen this before and this is from the memory and this is a dog. Same goes for nose. Like, for example, if let's just say if your mother uses a particular type of fragrance, okay, and if you go somewhere outside and you like with the help of your nose you smell the same thing, now your brain will quickly understand, okay, this is a very similar scent, right? So the nose, that is also responsible for all the sense of smell. And how does it happen is that the brain again comprehends it. Same goes for the ears, skin, and tongue. So we are informed about the outside world with the help of sense organs. So our nervous system does that, but with the help of sense organs. Now, secondly, the nervous system is responsible for controlling the voluntary activities, meaning every single activity that is under your control is also controlled by the nervous system. For example, if I ask you to stand up, you'll quickly stand up if you want to. If you don't want to, you'll keep on sitting, right? If I'll ask you to run, you can run on your own will, right? If I ask you to write something like take down the notes, you can do it. You don't have
Basically,
to
the activities which we can control.
anything that you can control. You can close your eyes, that is under your control. You can run, walk, right? So all of these activities that you can actually control, they are also controlled by the central nervous system. That is why for people who have had severe brain damage or injury or accident, do you see that they cannot walk? They cannot, like, running is a very far thing. They cannot even do basic things that they used to do. Why? Because their control system has been damaged. That is why it gets, like, greatly affects that. So all of the voluntary activities, they are controlled by the central nervous system. Now, coming on to the involuntary activities, meaning the activities that are not under our control at all. For example, if you have had food and now you're coming and sitting in the class and I ask you, Zainab, stop your digestion right now. Stop it. Will you be able to do so?
No, because that's
No,
an involuntary
no.
action. It's
Yeah,
not under
you
my
cannot do
will.
it. Yes. If I ask you to stop beat or stop your heart from beating, will you be able to do so? No.
No, it's
Because
be
all of
pumping
these,
blood
yeah,
continue.
exactly. Because all of these activities, they are involuntary activities, not at all under our control. But still, our life goes on. Why? Because the nervous system is controlling it regularly. Okay, same way for, like, for those people that have had some sort of heart disease. Have you heard about, like, some people have artificial pacemakers set in their body
Yes.
for, like, for them, for their heart to beat? So for some people, their nervous system do not work so well, so their heart beats, like, do not, like, the heart does not beat regularly, so they have to put a machine so that the heart can beat. So that is why the nervous system is very important in terms of regulation of the involuntary activities as well. And whenever you're writing the functions of nervous system, if you're writing voluntary activities, mention what are the voluntary activities. You can mention any other apart from the ones that I've given, anything, but you have to give examples so that the teacher would see that you have learned every single thing. Now, lastly, the fourth function of our nervous system is to enable us to remember, to think, and to reason. Now, you can go and take a test because of the points, like, that you have studied because of your nervous system. You can remember things because of your nervous system. You can think again because of your nervous system. You can differentiate what is right and what is wrong because of your nervous system. So, our nervous system is obviously one of the most crucial parts of our body. And these are the four main, and you can say the basic functions that they perform. Any doubts in any of the functions?
No.
All right. Okay. Now you can note it down till here and then we'll move forward.
Ma'am, 1 minute. Only these some important terms like the whole thing.
Yeah, everything that is there, you take down.
Okay. Can you please scroll down? Thank you. Can you please scroll? Yeah, done. Yeah, done.
All right. Now, just like how we have studied that cell is the basic unit of life, right? We know that for anyone's existence, whether it is a lower organism or a higher organism, the existence is there because of the presence of cell. Same way, the functioning, the normal, you can say, running of the nervous system is because of its functional and structural unit, and that is what we call as a neuron. A neuron is the structural and functional unit of the nervous system. Now, we'll talk more about the structure of a neuron. So, one neuron is made up of three parts. There is the cell body, which you can also call it as cyton. Then there are dendrites, and lastly the axon. So three parts of the neurons are there. Now see here. Hmm. See, this is the diagram for the neuron, wherein this particular structure that you see, it is the cell body. Now, the cell body is recognized or characterized with the presence of a prominent nucleus, meaning a proper nucleus is present in it. And apart from that, it has cytoplasm as well. Do you know the function of cytoplasm?
Yes, like
Tell me.
the jelly-like substance that is present in like the cells,
Hmm.
which uh, has organelles present in it, and
Organelles. Very good. Hmm.
organelles and helps, I guess, uh, for the waste products to it diminishes the waste products, I guess. I'm
Hmm.
not sure about.
Yes, and see, mostly the fluid or the jelly-like substance, it is present in like filling all the areas of the cell. It gives a place for the nucleus to be set in. It gives the place for the organelles to set in, right? And it is the arena for all the cellular activities to happen. Now, in this case, in the case of a neuron, the cytoplasm anchors the nucleus. It holds the nucleus in place. And remember that the cyton or the cell body, it has a very prominent nucleus and a proper cytoplasm is present. Okay.
Proper nucleus, do they mean by the nucleus even having like a nuclear membrane and all?
Hmm. Yes. And prominent means that you can see it very nice under a microscope. You can see it, visualize it. Okay. And now these branch like structures that you see that are coming out of the cell body or the cyton, these are the dendrites. These are the branch like structures that come out of the cell body or the cyton. Now, their function is to collect the various impulses from everywhere and bring it to the cell body, sort of like collecting it from every single where, bringing it to the cell body. Now, lastly, there is the axon, which is the longest part of this neuron, and it is the process, or you can say, like from the dendrites, the impulses will go into the cell body or the cyton, and from there it will go into the axon, so that it can be passed on from one neuron to another neuron. Okay.
Okay.
Now, yeah, let us see here. Now, cell body, it has a well-defined nucleus and a cytoplasm. Dendrites, these are the branched projections of the cell body. Talking about the axon, so it is a long process or a long extension of the cell body. The end portions of the axon have swollen bulb-like structure. Just 1 second here, just 1 second. Yeah. So I was talking about the axon. So axon is a long process or a long extension that comes out of the cell body. Now the end portions of the axon, they have swollen bulb-like structures, which are the storehouse of neurotransmitters. Now see, in this particular diagram, do you see these are the like the end parts, they are swollen, they are bulb like structures that are present, and they are the storehouse of neurotransmitter, meaning inside them neurotransmitter is stored, and these bulb like swollen structures, they are known as the nerve endings. So these are the various parts of the neuron. We have dendrites, cell body, axon, and lastly there is the nerve endings. Clear? Any doubts?
What's the function of the bulb-like structures?
It stores the neurotransmitter, the storage of neurotransmitter. That is the function of the nerve endings. Okay. Now, what do you think is a neurotransmitter?
Uh, that transports all the uh, responses.
Very good. Not actually the responses, but that transports the signals from one neuron to another neuron. Okay, because see, a neuron, even though it is the longest cell of our body, but still our body has millions of neurons present in it. Okay, it's like a network throughout the body. So one neuron is connected to the other and so on. So now, before moving forward and talking about what the neurotransmitter does, let us talk about the two different types of axons. Now, axons are of two types, depending upon the presence or the absence of the myelin sheath. So, see these box-like structures that I've drawn, sort of like a covering on the axon. Okay, these are the myelin sheath. These are proteinaceous sheath that are present on the entire length of the axon. Now, for all of those axons that have this myelin sheath present in them, these axons are known as myelinated axon. And the ones that do not have the myelin sheath present, they are known as the non-myelinated axon. Okay, so this axon can be divided into two types depending upon whether the myelin sheath is present or whether it is absent. For those axons that have the myelin sheath present, we call them as myelinated axon. And those that do not have the myelin sheath present, they are the non-myelinated axon. Clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now we'll talk about the actual function of the neurotransmitter. Now see, there is a word that is known as synapse, or we can commonly call it as a gap also. See, here I've drawn two neurons. Okay, this is neuron number 1 and this is neuron number 2. So now these two neurons, they are not connected, like stuck together to be connected to each other. They are like, for example, if this is one neuron, this is present, and then after a gap, there is the other neuron that is present. And that gap is what is called as a synapse. Now, this gap, if you see it, so it is present in between the nerve endings, meaning the end portion of one neuron. Nerve endings is the end portion, and the
Yeah.
dendrites of the second neuron, meaning the starting of the second neuron. So this is how it is connected, sort of like tail to head. And the space between them is known as a synapse or a gap. Now talking about the synapse, so it is the space between two neurons. It is present between the nerve endings of one neuron and the dendrites of another. This is the place where neurotransmitter is released by one neuron and then this neurotransmitter gets received by another neuron. Because the impulse, for example, if the impulse is traveling from the knee to the brain or from the toe to the brain, so it has to carry a longer distance, right? So it is connected by several neurons. And how do they form the connection? One neuron gets connected to the other and they use the neurotransmitter for it. Okay. Now, what happens is that we know that the nerve endings are present at the end of the axon. Now, what these nerve endings do is that they have the storage of neurotransmitter, right? And that neurotransmitter is just a generalized term. The main or a kind of neurotransmitter, the most common kind is acetylcholine. Okay, acetylcholine is the name of that chemical and it is a kind of a neurotransmitter. So this neurotransmitter is released from the nerve endings of the neuron number 1 and then this acetylcholine or the neurotransmitter, it gets received by the dendrites of another neuron. So you can see that neuron number 1 gets connected or you can say send the impulse to the second neuron and then second will send to the third and fourth and so on. So this is how the impulse is actually conducted in our body and this will happen until the impulse reaches the brain, meaning the central nervous system. Clear?
Yeah.
Any doubts?
No.
Okay. Now see, many a times in like whenever the topic of neuron comes, the most common type of question that can come is either to explain the parts of a neuron or to draw it and show diagrammatically. So it will be amazing if you practice the diagram of a neuron. Okay, neuron diagrams are like it's very easy, and it is like asked a lot in the questions. Okay, so what you do is like first of all you note down the paths and everything, and then you draw the diagram like well labeled and everything. Okay.
I'm done till here.
Diagram too.
Yeah, done. Yeah, I'm done.
All right. Any doubts up until now?
No.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, this part was left. Two lines were left.
Yeah, I'm done.
All right. Okay. Now let us talk about the different types of neurons that are there. Now, see, on a general level, there are three basic types of neurons that are present. There is the sensory neuron, motor neuron, and association or relay neuron. Now, when we talk about the sensory neuron, so these are the ones that carry the impulses or the signals from the receptors to the central nervous system. So wherever a stimulus is received, these neurons, they carry those stimulus or impulses from the receptor to the CNS. Then comes the motor neurons. Now they are responsible for carrying the impulses from the CNS, the central nervous system, lastly to the effector. Now, effector can be a muscle or it can be a gland. It doesn't matter. But the motor neuron, they carry the impulses, meaning the finally the signal when it has been interpreted by the CNS or the central nervous system, then the response, whatever the response is, it is carried by the motor neuron from the central nervous system, lastly to the effector. And then comes the relay. Now, have you ever been a part of a relay race wherein you like someone comes running, they give you, hand you something, then you take that, you run, right? So same thing is done by this particular neuron. They form a relay or an association. So these two neurons that are sensory and motor neurons, they are connected at a point, and that is the connection between them is the association or the relay neuron. They form a connection between the sensory and the motor neurons. So these are the three basic types of neurons that are present in our body and with their functions. Any doubts?
Yeah.
This whole thing is clear?
Yeah.
All right, very good. Now moving forward, let us see some of the examples of receptors. Now, the first kind is the olfactory receptor. Now, olfaction, it is associated with the sense of smell. So, these olfactory receptors, they are present inside the nose and they are responsible for the sense of smell in our body. Then there is the gustatory receptor. It is responsible for the gustation. They are present on the tongue and they are responsible for the sense of taste. The taste buds also come in this only, the gustatory receptors. Then, apart from all of these are some other receptors that are present in our body, such as the auditory receptor that is responsible for our hearing, the thigmoreceptors that are responsible for the touch, thermoreceptors responsible for the sense of heat, like change in temperature, and the visual receptor that are responsible for the sense of sight. So all of these are the various kinds of receptors that are present in our body. Each of them have their own functions to perform, and more so, they are actually associated with, you can say, the sense organ of our body, right? If we're talking about the olfactory receptors, so they are present in the nose. Gustatory receptor present on the tongue. Then auditory ones are present in the ears. So they are one way or another, they are associated with the sense organs of our body, and they are responsible for the reception of the environment around us. Anything we know, if there is a bad smell or a good smell, bad taste or a good taste, anything, because of these receptors that are present. Any doubts? Okay, now you can note it down.
Yes.
Done? All right. So let us quickly see what all we have learned today. Now, you tell me, do you have any doubts anywhere? Do you want anything to explain again?
No.
All right. Okay. So to look at what we have learned today, we have seen some of the most important terms with respect to the control and coordination. We've seen stimulus, that is the change that is provided to the body. It is the signal, initial signal, and then a response, which is a change that is done as a result of a stimulus. The receptors are those nerve cells that carry the stimulus or the impulse to the central nervous system. And then there is the effector. Now, these are the muscles or the glands that produce the response. I mean, the response is produced through these effector muscles or glands. Now, when we talk about the central nervous system, we must remember the two components of the central nervous system, that is the brain and the spinal cord. And because of these two components only, our whole entire process of control and coordination in our body takes place. Now, talking about the functions of the nervous system. First of all, anything that happens around us, we are informed about it with the help of our sense organ, and that helps us do the whole coordination aspect of our body. Then, our nervous system controls the voluntary activities of our body, the activities that are under our control or under our will. And then, the nervous system also regulates the involuntary activities of our body, meaning they are not under our control. Apart from that, the nervous system in our body, it enables us to remember, think, and to reason. The structural and functional unit of our nervous system is the neuron. And the neuron has three main parts, that is the cell body, cyton, dendrites, and axon. The axons have swollen endings at the end, which stores the neurotransmitter, and we call them as the nerve endings. The diagram of neuron is very important, so you practice it once or twice. Now, the axons, they are further of two types depending upon the presence or absence of myelin sheath on them. If the myelin sheath is present on them, we call those axons as myelinated. And if the myelin sheath is absent on them, we call those axons as non-myelinated axons. Now,
What's the role of
yes,
myelin sheath?
it sort of performs the function of insulation.
Insulation. Okay.
Then two neurons, they are connected, or like they are actually connected with the help of neurotransmitters. Like one neurotransmitter from one neuron is sent to the other so that the impulse can travel like that. And there is a space in between the two neurons, and that is the space we call as synapse or a gap. Now, the most common type of neurotransmitter is acetylcholine. And then we have talked about the different types of neurons that are there in our body. We have sensory neuron, motor neuron, association or relay neurons. Lastly, these are the various types of receptors that are found in the body: the olfactory, gustatory, auditory, thermo, and visual. So, do you have any doubts anywhere?
No.
All right. Okay, so since this is your trial class, so which class are you basically opting for? Do you want a batch class? Like you want to be added to the batch, right?
Uh, but then the thing is, if I get added to the batch, I'm just like insecure. Like, what if I ask a question and then like the question is too simple, like a really simple question, and the people just go like, "What is she asking?"
Yeah. See, the first thing is that the batch strength over here is very small. Okay. So in terms of the teacher's attention towards you, let's start from the beginning only. So in terms of teacher's attention, you will have one-on-one attention even if you are in a batch or doing it singularly. Then the thing that goes for the doubt, see, every single student that will be present in the class alongside you, all of you are here to learn. And I have given that liberty to every single student to ask even the most stupidest of the doubts. I won't mind. And no one will laugh. You should not care. If you have any doubt in a very obvious topic, also in a very obvious, like the thing that most of the people know, and then also you have a doubt in that, feel free to ask, because you are here for yourself, not for others, right? You're not here for me, not here for your classmates or anything. You're here for yourself, right? So even if you have the most stupidest doubt, I'm saying, I'm using the word stupid, not even silly or it, even if it is such an invalid doubt, you still ask it. So never hesitate, whether you are like alone in the class or whether you are along with students. Never ever hesitate. Okay. And don't wait for ma'am to stop talking and then you'll ask your question. You can ask in the middle also. If you have any doubt, you can ask in the middle also. Clear?
Also, like during the class, will they like for revision and all? Will they use past year CBSE questions for revision?
Hmm. Yes. Like after the chapters have been completed, then the previous year questions will also be solved, so that you people will have a proper sense of what kind of questions are going to be coming in the exam. And apart from that, after every single class, a homework is sent related to what has happened in the class for that day. So
Uh,
you do, yeah, say.
what like tests and all? Are you gonna like conduct tests after?
Tests are also conducted over here. Once a certain amount of chapter has been completed, then tests are conducted so that we can see what is the progress.